أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد. Today, inshallah, we'll be starting a series on a book I am writing, and it is based on a research I carried out for my master's thesis in Islamic knowledge. This book or this research the research was based on marriage and reasons for frequent marriage failures, especially within the under 40s, and that age bracket, young people, and it generally was based for an area in Kaduna, but extended to other parts of the country. The research is based on Islamic understanding and views of marriage. And inshallah, we'll be going into it. The reason is basically I had hoped to finish it before I start talking about it. But recently on social media, a lot of things have been coming up, and it reflects what my research was primarily about: knowledge and marriage. We try to link the use or the having the use of knowledge base in marriage and the lack of it, the having of knowledge and using it, or having it and not using it, and not having it at all, and how it affects the marriage on the side of both spouses, the husband, the wife, and where both of them have it and they use it, or they don't use it, or one person uses and the other doesn't, and what is really knowledge, and we'll go into all this. Well, like I said, it's based on a book I'm writing on marriage. Inshallah, I'll bring out the name of the book as we go on. This book is based on a study that investigated the root causes of frequent marriage failures among Muslim residents in Kaduna, and looking beyond Kaduna, with a view to propose solutions to them from an Islamic perspective. And the book looked at, examined issues that were raised from survey questionnaires given, and tries to proffer workable solutions to resolve these causes and cases of failed marriages, to at least bring it to the barest minimum as we can, and bring happiness into marriages and all that. The research adopted a structured questionnaire and adopted qualitative doctrinal research approach to arrive at the information that gave rise to the thesis being accepted and now being put into a book, inshallah. I hope one of these days, inshallah, I'll get to publish this book. Now, like I said, it's based on knowledge. It revealed that the significant proportion of the Muslim Ummah were not well versed in the Islamic ways and approach to living the Islamic life and worship the way it should be. This was caused by it was found to be inadequate exposure to learning Islamic-based, understanding what the Hadith says, understanding what the Quran says, understanding how it goes with our culture and what is right and what is wrong, and the influence of Western values came in. By extension, these lapses in lack of proper exposure to Islamic knowledge and understanding on it, then of it, and the influence of Western values and other values that we adopted. In the words of late Ali Mazuri, we'll say our triple heritages, the religious and the cultural and the colonization thing and all of it, and we're not sure where we're really staying, but with knowledge you beat all that, you know. And this, by extension, this lapses in adherence to Islamic provisions in relation to marital rights and obligation by spouses. The lack of ilm. You see, when we talk about ilm, it's different from knowledge. It's a companion of things that bring about ilm. Just to say ilm and knowledge are the same things, it's really not. It's ilm, it's more than knowledge, because ilm involves the use, practicalization of that knowledge and things like that. So this lack of that, lack of understanding of marriage as a part of the deen, impatience, misunderstandings that are caused from still lack of knowledge and understanding of cultural and religious rules that have led to, these have all led to various failures at different levels. When we say failure here, it's not necessarily a divorce, it's just unhappiness, stress, so many things that come in with it, because we didn't understand the how or the why, which would have just made it easier for everybody. Based on the findings of this research, of course, it is recommended, then you find out that there's a need to live our lives generally, not just in marriage, in everything we do, work, play, everything. By observing those commandments and rules laid down by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in everything we do. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ma halakal insa wal jinn illa liya'budun. He didn't create man and jinn but for anything, but to worship him. So everything is an act of worship. It doesn't stop you from having your fun. It doesn't stop you from going to the beach. It doesn't stop you from going to the pool. It just tells you how to go there, and what to do. And it's the same with everything we do. We complain, we talk about rules, it's restrictive, it's that, but everything in life is restrictive. If you're traveling to some other person's country, they give you rules. You cannot do this, you cannot stay here, you cannot go there, you cannot do that. So you try to do it, but you cannot work on a visitor's visa. You cannot go to certain places. You're restricted. If you do anything, they deport you. These are all rules that are made, and you have to follow them. If you don't follow those rules, you get kicked out. You go to university, if you don't go to classes or you do what you like, they kick you out. So if you don't pass your exams, they kick you out. So there are rules and regulations, and everything is based on that order. That you don't understand it or you don't know it doesn't make it wrong. And when you understand it, then you have a choice. As they say, you have an informed choice. But all things have been laid down as it reflects to everything we do. And in marriage too, Allah has laid down rules and regulations for us and how we should live our lives with our spouses. And the basic line is, do not oppress and do not be oppressed. Thus, this book goes further, the research went further to look at what you need to know, how you need to know it, and what you need to do, In some cultures or in some parts here now, you find there are places like, before people get married, couples, they're encouraged to go to one school or the other, one training school or the other. In many churches, they will ask you to go to marriage school, marriage counseling, marriage work before they get married. It's the same thing in some sects we have in Islam. Before you get married, you go through all that. The reason is for you to understand that marriage in itself is an act of worship. It's not a social contract. It's not an equal rights thing. It's not a manipulated thing. I just want to have kids thing. No, it's an act of worship. It's part of your deen. The same way you need to know about fasting, what makes it right, what makes it wrong, how to amend it. You want to go for Hajj, you want to know what to do. You just don't go there and just go around the Kaaba and say, I've gone for Hajj. There are things you need to know how to do and rules you have to follow. Otherwise, your Hajj is wasted. You didn't do anything, and probably you have to make some remakes for it, or some things you have to make amends for. So it's like that with your prayer. You just don't wake up and go and pray. You have to know how to purify yourself, major. Then your wudu. You have to know how to stand, how to make your takbir, how to start your prayer, you know. So when you go into haram, Allahu Akbar, you protect, you forbidden everything. You now don't go talking, well, how far? No. You've started, you know, kabar al-haram, you've done it, Allahu Akbar. And your prayer goes on. You've got to know what you can do, what spoils your prayer from that. How do you mend it? So you just don't do it the way you want. It's the same with marriage. You don't go into marriage just because you saw her or she saw you and she just wants to get married. Marriage is more than that. Marriage could get you into hell. It could get you into Jannah. There are rules and regulations to it. That some people abuse this doesn't make it a religion thing. The religion does not approve oppression. Islam does not agree with, in any way, with the provision of anybody's rights. And the narrative that women are oppressed is just some, astaghfirullah, some shaitanic narrative going around. Islam gave women rights before anybody else gave rights. And Islam gave them rights long, long before people thought of it. Rights that have been materializing here in Nigeria, while women who are Muslim have been given the rights to inheritance by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala over 1,400 plus years ago. It was just a few years back that the Supreme Court gave women in the Southeast rights to inheritance. Till today, a lot of them don't inherit, but you don't hear it on news media. When a woman's husband dies, the relatives come and take everything. So you see, rights are there. That some people abuse it or refuse to do what they're supposed to do doesn't make it part of the deen or part of the culture. It just means some people are not doing the right thing. And Islam has given ways for them to be held accountable. You just have to explore it. If you don't explore it, of course, you wouldn't find it. So we would be going in step by step. We'll break this down bit by bit, and inshallah, with a good number of modules or classes or lectures or videos or however you want to term it, we would look at so many things. I am open to comments on anything I have said, and I am open to objective criticism where necessary. Let us put emotions aside. Let us find out first, what is it supposed to be? It is my right for you to feed me. If one person doesn't feed me or you don't feed me, it doesn't mean everybody else is wrong. The system doesn't agree to that. So how do I fight for my rights? These are things we would look at, and why aren't you giving me my rights? And things like that would come up. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah 25 of the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and those who say, our Lord, grant us, from among our wives and offsprings, comfort to our eyes, Qurratul Ayn, and make us an example for the righteous. The righteous, to be righteous, that means you're doing the right thing. To be an example for the righteous, it means you're giving everybody his own rights, fulfilling, everybody's doing what he or she's supposed to do. If you don't know what you're supposed to do, then there is a problem. If you know what you're supposed to do and you're not doing it, there's also a problem. So, and in each home you go to, there is its own problem, but most of it is based on things that are relatively easy to resolve. Yes, it could be ego, it could be pride. It could be ego and pride and ignorance and arrogance all together in one person. And you know that person needs prayers and deliverance to have all those things on him or her. But like I said, we would be going through this to discuss about marriage, what it is, what is expected, and what we should all do, understanding that it is a religious act. Marriage is an institution in its own standing, primarily as an act of ibadah and a path to wellness and healthy living. Where marriage is lived right within the Sunnah with a positive mindset, the reward apart from the promise of Jannah is the blessing of having your mind, body, and soul being peaceful and healthy. If you don't do it right, you see, the saying is, Ba'd al-haq illa al-darar. After the truth, there's nothing but falsehood or loss or being lost. You know, if you leave the true path, you're lost. There's no other route to it. There's no other way. You're either right or you're not right. There's no semi-right or I was almost right or it's all just, no. That is just to hype oneself. You see, we all know, we all agree. Islam is a complete deen. Nothing was left out. Deen is a way of life. So when people say Islamic religion, they're actually not, it's just for use of term, but religion does not translate deen. Deen is a complete way of life, which Islam is. Islam does not leave you on your own to do what you want. It has made everything easy for you. It has made everything within reach for you, comfortable for you. And with rewards, blessings, you want to go to the toilet, you rush in, ooh, and you come out stinking toilet and everything, but you didn't make askar. It doesn't stop you from relieving yourself, but you didn't get a reward. If you made your askar, it becomes part of worship, so you get a reward. Like all those games they play on computer where you have one thing eating 1 point with the other, you get points, and you have golden points, you get bonuses and stuff like that. These are those bonus points and things you make that give you points in life. Doing it the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has directed you to do. You get rewards. You get that bonus points, you get to a point where you get extra life, you get everything. So it's all there. So if you do it right, Islam is a complete package. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us in Surah Al-Ma'idah, in third ayah, that this day he has perfected our religion for us and he's completed his favor. His favor. So it is a favor to us to do the way he has said and do things right, from interactions to our neighbors, to our family members, to our siblings, to work, to people we meet on the road. He's perfected that favor for us and has chosen Islam as our religion. So everything is there. And when you look at the last sermon of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, He called people to bear witness that he has delivered everything. He has given. As he was given, he has passed it on. As it was passed on to him, he has delivered, he is given. He didn't leave anything out. This deen is based on knowledge. The deen of Islam is based on knowledge and the use of that knowledge, not just having knowledge, but using that knowledge makes you a good Muslim, makes you a practicing Muslim, makes you get the rewards. You like it, you don't like it, you agree, you don't agree. Death is a constant. Everybody is going to die. Everybody is going to die. And when you die, nobody has come back to say where it is or not. So whether you agree there's a hell or there's a heaven, whether you agree you're going to be judged or not, the fact is you're going to die. So since that constant is there and you've been told on all these things, then do it according to the rules. From the way you eat, Bismillah, you get the reward. Alhamdulillah. You go into your house, Assalamu alaikum. You're leaving your house, you make the askars you want to, there's so many of them you could do. You want to sleep. These are things that have been given to us to make that life, other parts of it and every part of it, act of worship. So, it's based on knowledge. The first verse that was revealed to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was Iqra, read, recite. How can you recite if you don't know? Which was the conversation he had? What would he recite? He doesn't know what to. Before he was told to read in the name of your Lord who taught man. Surah goes on. So, it is our primary purpose in life. We have to understand that the primary purpose in life is to worship Allah. It doesn't stop us from making money. It doesn't stop us from eating shawarma. It doesn't stop us from going for trips, doing parties, doing whatever we want to do. We would come back to account for it. And the account will be based on if we did it as an act of worship or we just did it the way we liked. So when you go into an examination hall, for those who have gone into various examination halls, there's a way you're expected to write your name on the form. There's a way you're expected to answer the questions. There's a place you're supposed to put your exam number and so many other things. If you choose not to put it in that way or not to answer the questions the way you're supposed to answer, they would mark you wrong. And you'd live with it. You'd come back for a carryover. And if you went to school like us, when there was no carryovers, you'd come back and repeat the year. It doesn't bother anybody. Those are rules. So, and these rules are everywhere in our daily lives. You go out without your driver's license, or you don't have a driver's license or a vehicle license. If you're in Kaduna, of course, Castelia will stop you. They will book you out. They will take out your number plate and go. It's the rule. You can rebel, but if they come across you, you would pay a fine. You will do so many things, not to mention road safety gets you. So our life, whether we like it or not, whether we agree or not, is based on rules, whether man-made or God-made. If we take that made by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it covers the rest. If you follow the rules of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you would not drive without a driving license. You would not drive your vehicle without the particulars, because you know it will be against righteousness to do that. It will be oppression or doing something wrong. So, everything we do comes into the deen. But now we're talking about marriage. So, Islam encourages us to perform our actions based on knowledge and avoid doing things in ignorance. You pray or you do other acts, things that are actually acts of worship without knowing why, you miss out. Marriage is an act of worship. Yes, it is a social agreement, a legal contract that needs to be understood, needs to be practiced with the commitments of worship. from the thought and intention to marry the spouse, selection, marriage actions, separation and divorce. In this way, every aspect of married life brings endless rewards, peace and happiness to the married couple. So, yes, there's so much that you need to know if you do it right. Everybody will have his rights. Everything will be done right. Where you don't do what is supposed to be done, it is either, like I said earlier on, you don't know you're supposed to do it, which is not an excuse. Ignorance, they say, is not an excuse to the law. Or you know it and you've chosen not to do it. Your wife has rights over you, and you have rights over your wife. These rights we will go into as we progress in this series. And you'll find out that when you choose to disobey or not do these rights, you're not actually disobeying your husband or refusing to give your wife rights or whatever. No, no, no. You're disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a conflict. So you find things don't go well for you. You always have one issue or the other. If it's not at work, it's in your business. If it's not there, it's one funny sickness or the other that keeps hitting you, because you have chosen to fight with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, be just and fair to your wife, and you become like Israel trying to defend yourself for nothing but for oppression. You're oppressing and claiming to be the victim. It doesn't make so. Allah has given your husband rights over you, and you decide, no, you're not going to give him his rights. You want to still be like Israel, denying rights to the persons you're oppressing, which is wrong. So, it is an order. Those rights given to the wife or to the husband by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are given by him. It's not the malam next door, the preacher woman or preacher man that gave those rights. No. It's not the ustaz, it's not the muftis. No, no, no. It's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you're a Muslim and you believe and you want to practice, then you give everybody his or her rights. The same way you do and obey when they block your account and say, come to the bank with BB, and you'll go. You won't say, you grumble, you mumble, you will do, but you will go. When there's a curfew and they say, everybody stay home, shoot at sight, you will stay at home. You won't grumble and say, I'm going out. So, these things are there. These are acts of worship, you know. And you find out from our findings, from what I found from newspaper reports, from discussions with various counselors, imams, you know, and people in society, most of these marriage failures are, like I said, based on ignorance, lack of knowledge. There's this case of a gentleman who divorced his wife on the day of the wedding. On the way home, that he was practicing. I wanted to see how it would sound if they were going to divorce, that he was practicing it. And after he said it, they asked him, are you mad? What are you saying? And they told him there's no joke in divorce, just like there's no joke in marriage. Should a father give his daughter out to somebody and say, I'm giving you my daughter, there's no joke. The same way when you tell a woman you're divorcing her, there's no joke, there's no practice. Instead of going home, taking bride home now, they were fatwa hunting. And of course, that was the end of that marriage. Recently, not too long ago, in think it was in Zaria. There was a similar case where the gentleman came. We have a culture where when women get married, they taking their friends try to block the husband and his friends from coming in. Some call it kamu kai, some call it kamu kai, kamu, or whatever they call it, and some people say budankai. Some people say the bottom line is they just haggle price and try to get things from the groom's friends and co before she laughs or talks to them. In the process, he got angry. He got angry that if they're not going to let him talk to her, boy, he has divorced her, blah, 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 blah. By the time he went out and then he realized what was it. And of course, automatically she's forbidden to him. By the time he cooled down and realized what was the point of getting angry, it's a cultural thing. You people do it, everybody does it. He's seen it in everybody else's wedding. If he had knowledge that that statement would be binding, maybe he thought it was a joke. He was trying to show them he had power or whatever. Long and short, that was it. All the event, everything down to zero because of impatience, lack of knowledge, lack of understanding, and stuff like that. So you find out that with lack of knowledge, a lot of things go bad. A lot of things go bad, you know, and it's not just having the knowledge, it's applying it. So you see, in Islam, yes, knowledge from an Islamic perspective comes before actions. Having knowledge is also tied to understanding and practice of knowledge. For having knowledge without practicing, it has been described as one being like a donkey carrying books. This is a warning that was given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Jumu'ah, ayah 5. So we don't become like those who were before us, who were given knowledge but lived in ignorance. So, yes, we're talking about marriage, but yes, marriage is the bottom, the foundation to the ummah, the society, and everything. And as we go through this book and research, we would be looking at how knowledge, its use or lack of use of it, has resulted in failures, successes of marriages, and how the lack of knowledge on what to do and how to do it has caused a lot of pain and unhappiness to spouses, both men and women. You know, there are some men who live in bondage in their houses, just like there are women who do that. There are some men who are afraid to go back home, just like some women who are afraid for their husband to come back home. But this is not how it's supposed to be. Probably she doesn't have knowledge on what to do, or her parents or guardians too don't understand what marriage is and the rights and privileges that the husband or the daughter or the wife has, and the protection that is available to her that should be given to her or to him. You hear stories of women cutting off their husband's private parts because he wants to get married to a second wife, or burning him, or even killing the second wife, or some things like that. At the end of it, she ends up in jail. She's really not achieved what she wanted, and that wasn't the plan. She wanted to be alone, fine, she's now alone in jail. The children that she has will be given to one relative or the other to look after, probably because the husband is dead. So what would you have achieved when you acted in ignorance and without know, based on some theory somebody might have sold to you somewhere? So we really need to understand that for marriage to be an act of ibadah, worship of Allah, the parties involved must have knowledge related to it and act on that knowledge with the right intentions. This is very key. Actions are judged according to intentions, and everyone will get what they intend. This is a hadith in Sahih Bukhari, and Muslim reported it too. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said that actions are just according to intentions. In another hadith that you will find in Ibn Majah, hadith 224, you'll find Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, seeking knowledge is an obligation on every Muslim. So not knowing or assuming you can live Mills and Boom's life, or because Oprah Winfield said whatever, or somebody else is doing one lifestyle that is to their own culture there, and they think it's hip. You think you do it here and you have a right. No. You don't have that right. You have a right to go and do it there in that culture and leave it there. That's where it is. You don't have a right to bring it to somebody else's culture or somebody else's deen because you feel you have rights. No. The same way you don't have a right to walk into a military barrack and go and slap the CO that he passed your house and blew siren or made noise and disturbed your sleep. You don't have a right to go and force people to do what you want because you know your limitations, so you know what you wouldn't do. And inshallah, we would, like I said, be going through this. And like I've said, marriage itself is a sunnah. And it is encouraged. Seeking knowledge is obligatory on every Muslim. Living your life with knowledge, practicing the deen as it should be, is obligatory. It's not fardul kafaya that anybody can do. It's fardul ain that you must do yourself. You must know how to do your ibadah yourself. Fardul kafaya comes in that, yes, for things that once other people do, they represent you. So you need to seek knowledge, you need to practice it. Islam not only enjoins that you get married, but it prescribes principles and rules to regulate marriage as an institution and act of worship. The rights and obligations of the husband and wife towards each other are prescribed, and the observance of these rights and obligations are not only obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as I said earlier, but the key to happiness and fulfillment. Lack of knowledge and understanding to the intricacies of marriage from the Islamic perspective has caused an increase in the frequency of divorces and failed marriages from what we have found out. But you see, like I said, when you choose not to do, Allah has given the husband some rights and has given the wife some rights. When you say, I won't give him his rights or I won't give her her rights, you're disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you check your iman and check yourself. It's not about just going to be in the front row of the mosque. It's about what you do. That's where the iman comes, obeying Allah. Marriage is a part of my sunnah, and whoever does not follow my sunnah has nothing to do with me. Get married, for I am heartened by your great numbers before the nations of other prophets. This is a hadith by Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. You find it in Sunan Ibn Majah. So, inshallah, we would I'll be stopping around here. With this, marriage is ideally supposed to be a blessing and a mercy to both men and women, and by extension, the offsprings of the marriage, the relatives of the spouses, and the ummah in general. However, over the years, we have seen that this is not to be so, with rampant cases of unhappy homes, divorces, abandoned children, and a rise in mental and physical illness related to marriage failures. It was narrated from Abu Umama that the Prophet ﷺ used to say, nothing is more benefit to the believer after taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than a righteous wife whom, if he commands her, she obeys him. If he looks at her, she is pleased. If he swears an oath concerning her, she fulfills it. And when he is away from her, she is sincere towards him with regards to herself and his wealth. This is found in Sunan Ibn Majah. Yes, we're talking about the wife now. Husbands, hadith are coming and go, but then the wife. Allah created us in pairs, male and female, to complement each other. The man has his roles. The man goes out, he fights wars, he brings food, he does everything. He's the outside person. The woman is the inside person who takes care. She's the first teacher, she's the mother, so she's so elevated in Islam. The man does not have half of the elevation the woman has in Islam. The woman in Islam is a queen. She's a queen, she's protected at all given times. As a little child, she has her father to fend for her, defend her, protect her. When she grows up, it is now the responsibility of her husband when she gets married. Should for any reason she leaves that marriage by cause of death of her husband or divorce, she comes back to her father's protection. She's not left on her own. If there is no father, she has brothers. If there's no brother, she has uncles. If she has sons and they have reached age, when they are of age, they become her protectors. So she's not left alone to go and fend out for herself and do things. And yes, women are not stopped from working in Islam. Khadija radiallahu anha was a businesswoman. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, when he married her, he was running her business. So there's nothing wrong with you helping your wife do business. Before some people say, hey, you don't allow the wife to work, it's there. It's a sunnah to marry an older woman for her to have a business doing. And you see a lot of hadith of women who were doing that. There are women who, because of their wealth, they were married to poor men that deserved zakah. So they asked Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, can they give their husband zakah? And he said yes. And that's the only time the person who gives zakah can eat from the zakah, because when she gives her husband, he will buy food for the house and she'll have to eat the food. So 1,450 plus years or 45, 50 years ago, women were given rights. They could work. They did works, but they didn't go out doing what was for the men. They protected themselves, their modesty and everything. So when somebody tells you to go around half naked, that it's the fashion and cool, and you buy it, it is for him. His culture wants to see you naked. His mindset wants to see you nude, shaking your body all around. But that which you protect, which you love, you protect. You buy your iPhone, iPad, and all that. You don't leave it without a jacket. You buy, you put screen protector, you buy a casing for it, you pouch for it, you do this, you do that, you lock it up, you keep it and go. You have gold necklaces at home. You don't keep them on the table everywhere and everybody, you put it out in the safe or take it to the bank. They protect it because they love it and they want it. They want to make it have value. So inshallah, we will continue from here in our next class. We would, Bismillah ta'ala, be looking at a continuation from where we are here, talking about marriage, rights, and privileges to the spouses. Like I said, I welcome objective, constructive criticisms, talks based on this. And if you have questions, please just send them to via email or send it to me as a chat. And inshallah, I'll try to attend to it. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallim tasliman kathiran. Have a lovely evening, morning, afternoon, whatever time you're watching this. Bye-bye.